Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to Blackfoot territory in our Siksika lands. I'm Councilor Buck Breaker. I'd like to thank Elder Francis Wolf Leg for the prayer and the blessing, and Frank and Darcy Turning Road for the song. Very special day today for both our Siksika people and the government who is partnering with us today. I'd like to introduce our speakers who are going to be addressing all of you today. From Government of Alberta, we have Minister Dan Williams, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. We have Minister Mike Ellis, who is the Minister of Public Safety, but also the Deputy Premier. And we have MLA for Strathmore-Chestermere, Chantal de Jong, who is our guest today. And from Siksika, we have Chief Crowfoot, Councilor Marsha Wolf Leg, and Francis Wolf Leg, who will all be speaking on behalf of our respected communities and governments. So with that, I'd like to roll right along. I'd like to call upon Minister Dan Williams.
Well, good morning, everyone. Buck, thank you for introducing me, and thank you to Chief Crowfoot and his council for inviting us here today into your nation for this auspicious announcement, and thank you especially to Elder Wolf Leg for the work you did leading your community and for starting us off with that wonderful prayer. I'd like to especially acknowledge my colleagues that are here today, Deputy Premier Mike Ellis, MLA Chantal de Jong, and I know my colleague, your MLA, Joe Scow, wishes he could be here today, but he couldn't make it. And it's an important part of his constituency that he wanted to send along his best on his behalf. 5 years ago, this government started down a path that would become to known as the Alberta recovery model. And from the very start, we knew partnership with Indigenous communities was going to be the center of our model. The idea of recovery is simple. It's the idea that every single Albertan should have an opportunity at recovery, that our healthcare system should be about healing, should be about helping people get to a spot where their community members again, family members again, can contribute the way that they did before the deadly disease of addiction grabbed them. But that deadly disease of addiction doesn't have to end in tragedy. And that's the lesson we see here today with everyone here, and especially this nation with which we're partnering with Chief Crowfoot together. Not an imposition, but a proposition on the path forward as government with the Siksika nation saying, we can do better for our peoples. We can offer recovery, health, and healing for everybody in this province. We have started down this path where we've committed to 11 recovery communities, 5 with Indigenous partners. And I could not be more proud to be here today, this auspicious occasion, announcing this groundbreaking, this beautiful $35 million facility with 76 beds for recovery that is going to be land-based healing in Indigenous culture, owned and led by the Siksika Nation. I think it's so important when we look at this beautiful landscape we have behind us today to understand it's an integral part of the vision of the Siksika Nation on how they do recovery and treatment, deeply integrated into their very proud and important First Nation culture. It is a part of why they chose the location they did and why we had the blessing we did at the start. If you want to see what leadership looks like in recovery, it's the leadership of lived experience you see from this nation and from Indigenous across this province. I could not be more blown away and impressed with the professionalism and the degree to which communities like this one we're here today, Siksika leads and shows us what it looks like to show recovery in action, to show what healthcare and healing can look like for a people, not to abandon their community members to the deadly disease of addiction and the fight with these toxic and absolutely ferocious drugs, but instead to say there is an opportunity for health and recovery, and we want to look together to do that. And so this will be one of 11 world-class recovery centers that is focused, this one, on an Indigenous culture, which will be owned and operated by the Siksika Nation. We are going to provide partnership with them for capacity building and make sure that we see this continue to be a place of healing for many, many years to come. I want to pay special thanks to Chief Crowfoot and Buck Breaker, our MC tonight and councillor here, for the work they have done to get us to this spot today where we can make this groundbreaking announcement on 76 new beds for treatment that is land-based, indigenously centered healing that is going to support recovery for up to 300 people a year. Those 300 people have an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have. And the difference that that's going to make for those individuals, for their families, for the community, and for the province of Alberta is so incredible. And it's why we need to continue down this path of recovery. Because the alternative recovery, a government and a people that reject recovery, is too scary a thought for me. And I think we have an obligation to work with our partners to do this. The hope is, by the end of 2025, those 300 people are going to be getting treatment in this facility and working in partnership with the Siksika Nation. I'm confident that we're going to have this completed before then. And with that, I want to turn it over to Chief Crowfoot for some remarks and thank him again for his warm welcome and for the entire Siksika Nation and their councillors for having us here today. Thank you.
Okay, it's going to open Mr. Wanako Nukske Stomach. I'd like to thank the Turning Robes for that song this morning, as well as Butch Wolf Leg for starting us off with that blessing. You know, you don't have to be from Siksika to know the history of what today is Alberta and Canada. You know, just right over here, 1877 is where the Blackfoot Treaty was signed. Shortly after that, the reservation system came into place, the residential schools, the 60 scoop, and the past system. Each one of these events was a traumatic event and a life-changing event for our people. That's a little bit of the history. And because of that history and because of that trauma, there's a lot of people, not just from Siksika, but all across Canada, that have dealt with addictions in some form or fashion. I don't think there's any one person from Siksika or any other First Nation that doesn't know anybody firsthand that's not battling with some kind of addictions and some kind of trauma. Now, we don't necessarily think that this recovery center is going to be the magic pill, if you will. But one of the things that we've been working on here at Siksika is creating that foundation. You know, a lot of times when people turn to drugs or alcohol, it's not for the party, it's to bury some of that trauma that they're dealing with. And some of the traditional treatment centers, it's either been the 28-day turnaround or the 90-day turnaround. And a lot of times the people that go in there, they're not really ready to be healed. And so our goal and our vision, along with the province of Alberta, is through this facility, being here at Siksika, some of the teachings that are going to be part of the recovery program are some Siksika-based, land-based, getting at the core of the issue, really addressing the core. Because if you don't address the core of the issue, you're simply just putting a quick heal over it, and it's not gonna. You're not gonna have long-term success. Our goal here is to have some long-term success and have real healing for a lot of our people. And some of the foundation. One of the things I say that I'm proud of here at Siksika is, like I said, this is one of the building blocks. We realize all the trauma that happened here at Siksika and other First Nations and all the events. We've basically been in survival mode for a long time. I strongly feel that we're turning the tide here at Siksika and we're moving from survival mode into thrive mode. And if we get to that thrive mode, we need our people to be strong, physically, mentally, emotionally. And this facility is going to help some of our people to get back to that strong warrior feeling that we were when we were warrior people and had this vast territory. So again, I'd like to thank Minister Ellis and Minister Williams and the rest of the team from the province of Alberta that's helped, along with our council. Buck Breaker has taken the lead, but we also have some of our team that's helped out along the way to make this a reality. You know, far too often do we hear of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds that were going to funerals. You know, far too many of our people are dying prematurely. You know, you have mothers and grandmothers going to go see their grandchildren put in the earth. And that's just not our way. And we need to move away from that. And this is one of the stones in the foundation that we strongly believe is going to move us towards that strong nation that we know we are and we're going to be in the future. So again, I'd like to thank the team. I'd like to thank our council and thank the people, because it's going to be the people that really make this strong. Us here in front of you today, the province of Alberta, the ministers, councilors, we're just making the building here. We're putting the building here. It's going to be the people that come in, the programs that are here, and the community that's going to make it a success. But I have a lot of confidence in our people, and I have a lot of confidence in the future. We had a vast history. A lot of people only think back to 1877 because we didn't have that written history. But some of the oldest DNA in all of North America was Blackfoot DNA. Some of these archaeological digs that were taken by the University of Calgary just right over this hill date back to 6,000, 10,000 years back of constantly using the same fire pits in the same areas. So there's a lot of history. Anywhere you go in Alberta and Montana, you're going to see the footprint of the Blackfoot people. And we're not a people of the past. We are a people of the future. And it's events like today and it's facilities like this that's going to ensure our people are strong for many generations to come. So thank you, Alberta. Thank you, Buck Breaker and the council. And we look forward to this facility being from groundbreaking to ribbon cutting to having the doors open. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Crowfoot, for those strong words as usual. And Minister Dan Williams, thank you for your words as well. At this time, I'd like to call upon Minister Mike Ellis. Just a little history. Minister Mike was part of the task force team that Alberta put together. I think it's about 2 years now or a year. But anyways, so Minister Mike was a part of that, and he was the previous minister of mental health and addictions, and that's how we got acquainted. And he has a strong passion for this. So with that, I'd like to call upon Minister Mike Ellis.
Well, good morning, everyone. Chief, thank you so much. Thank you for the song today, gentlemen. Elder Wolf Leg, thank you so much for that prayer. It is such an honor to be here. I also want to acknowledge, of course, that we're gathered today on the Siksika land, the Blackfoot territory. I would acknowledge all the elders that are here today in attendance. Of course, Chief Crowfoot, Minister Williams, MLA de Jong, all the councilors, the community members. This really is truly a historic moment, and I can't thank you I just thank you so much. I remember the concept of this idea. I remember riding in a car with Buck, going around figuring out where the best location might be, and to be standing here today is truly remarkable. Before our government took action with the recovery-oriented system of care, addiction treatment services was often limited, or in fact, it was actually missing completely. And this was unacceptable. We understood that we needed to do more, enable people to get help, and of course, pursue recovery. And this is why today is so monumental. It reaffirms our commitment to actively work with our First Nations communities to address these challenges and build these projects. Today is a testament of that commitment, and we break ground on the construction of this new addiction treatment facility right here on Siksika lands, and I could not be more proud. With time and dedication, the individuals on Siksika lands can overcome addiction, regain control over lives and the recovery community system once it is completed. It ultimately leads to improved physical health, to mental health, stronger relationships with family and friends, a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment, and people that are suffering from addiction can actually get their lives back. Addiction recovery is a long-term process, and I know the Chief eloquently said this. You know, gone should be the days of the 28-day program, the 60-day program, the 90-day program. In fact, that actually puts more anxiety on a person, and it doesn't really lead to true recovery. And that's why these recovery communities, you know, people can be in there for a year and a half until they are physically and mentally ready to get back into the community. We work at their pace because everybody heals at a different pace. And long-term, this will be meaningful for recovery. So today, this groundbreaking signifies true reconciliation. As the former Associate Minister of this mental health and addiction, to get this project underway. And I'm so glad to see Minister Williams picking up this torch and carrying out our promise to reconciliation and the beginning of a new path forward for recovery for those suffering from addiction. And the community members who have worked hard to make this a reality, thank you, and I commend you for everything that you have done. You should be extremely proud of your leadership today that will change generations to come for this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Our next delegate has served in council for 3 terms, and herself, she has over 20 years of recovery in her journey. So it's a great role model for our community and fellow leaders to how important it is for recovery. I'd like to call upon Councilor Marsha Wolf Leg.
Uki. Nidanagu Nadumgat Sistaki. My name is Marsha Wolf Leg. So good morning to everyone. I want to thank Butch for their prayer. Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge Frank and Darcy for the song. I would like to welcome all our elders here today, our special guest, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Dan Williams, and Deputy Premier and Minister of Public Safety, Mike Ellis, and as well to my Chief and Council colleagues, and to the membership of Siksika that are here today. I also want to recognize and acknowledge the Siksika Nation Recovery Task Force team. So I'd like for them to stand so we all kind of know who that is. So I'd like to call on Candace Backfat, Hector Winnipeg, Kendall Pantherbone, and I also like to acknowledge our Chief and Council, Sam, if you could stand. Am I missing anybody else? Owen, Crane Bear, there he is. And of course our chair for not only for the public safety but for the recovery task is Buckbreaker Rubin. I also want to recognize our technicians that are helping us with this project, and that includes the Siksika Lands Department and also the Siksika Public Works that have really helped us, and as well both the communications team from the Government of Alberta and as well Synoxin. So if you could wave Synoxin, Government of Alberta, thank you for all the time and effort and the technicians that are here. I also want to recognize the men's group. If you could all raise or wave, we have a Siksika men's group who are part of the healing journey of recovery. I'd like to recognize them. So Siksika Nation has always been a strong and progressive nation, despite its challenges dealing with its dark history from the impacts of colonization and residential schools. Today, there are other traumas and issues being dealt with which contributes to the challenges of addictions. Siksika has always strived to deal with these impacts and issues of addiction, and today marks a new era of recovery and restoration. I want to right now acknowledge Francis Butch Wolf Leg. I remember him being a part of it used to be called Alcohol Services, and I remember it was an old house, and it was one of the it was part of the residential school, all of that. It was an old house, and so they left them there. And I remember there was about 3 of them, and one of them was the services that they provided there. So thank you, Butch, for all your hard work to date. This year marks my 23 years of recovery. I know the struggle and the impacts it has on families and relationships. I am so very proud of all those here today sharing this important moment who themselves are in recovery. And behind me, I just want to tell you a little story. 3 years ago, I lost my son-in-law. We laid him to rest just right behind us. So my daughter has been on her journey too as well, and my 2 grandsons, which myself and our family, we have to take on the role of helping to raise them. This recovery center will be a vital resource for those struggling with addiction. Without access to a recovery center, many individuals struggle to find the help they need and may continue to suffer from their conditions. Therefore, having a recovery center available can be life-changing for those in need. This center will provide a safe and supportive environment for individuals to receive treatment, therapy, support as they work towards recovery. The center will offer a range of services, including a medical detox care center, counseling, and most importantly, a cultural program, which is our Siksika way of life, and to help individuals overcome the challenges and lead healthy, fulfilling lives. I want to thank the government of Alberta and all those who have been involved in this commitment in supporting, providing financial contributions, and the hard work to make this recovery center reality. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Marsha Wolf Leg. Very inspiring for our colleagues. At this time, I'd like to call upon the MLA for Chestermere Strathmore, Chantal de Jong.
Thank you very much, Buck. What a special and important day this is, and I want to extend my gratitude to Siksika Nation, Chief Crowfoot, all the councillors and the elders that are here today for welcoming us to celebrate this day with you. And thank you to Elder Francis for getting us started in such a good way. Across the province and across the country, families and communities are battling the addiction crisis. And this has been a sad reality for many years now and has caused an insufferable amount of pain in the lives of countless Canadians, including myself. And we need solutions that work and that support our loved ones in their pursuit of recovery. And so I'm so honored to stand here today as the MLA for Chestermere Strathmore in support of this facility, which will not only serve Siksika Nation, but the entire region. And I'm so proud to be part of and to see a government that is putting such an emphasis and a focus on recovery because we know that it's possible. There's nothing compassionate about leaving someone to suffer in their addiction, and that's why facilities like this are so critically important. They are a place for people to heal and overcome their challenges. They're a place of hope where someone can learn and live in recovery. And each person who succeeds in recovery is a testament to others. And they will lift up and inspire others to receive as well that life-saving treatment and recovery they need. And so I thank you all for being here today for such a momentous occasion to mark this groundbreaking, but also importantly, the beginning of that journey, which starts right here where we stand. And so with that, now I'd like it to just turn it over back to Buck, and thank you again for having me here today.
Thank you, MLA for attending. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to bring up Elder Francis Butch Wolf Leg, who will be celebrating 50 years sobriety this year. And we have several members in the community who have reached that milestone of 50 years, and we have a few other ladies who are just under 50 years. So that just shows that recovery is possible in our communities, and they're great resources. And that's who we need is in our community is our own people, especially our elders, who have turned their life and proved to us that it is possible. I'm going to warn you, Butch can be a little wacko at times, so he'll probably say some things, but it's just proof that with us First Nations people, our humor is one thing that has been kept with us, and then we use it, and you'll witness that with Butch Wolf Leg. Come on up, Butch.
All rise. Yeah, some of you just about got up, okay. I was just thinking back to the early days, mentioning Frank Turning Robe. Those were some of the principles that laid the foundation for where we are today. Back in the day, there was a big issue between province and the federal. They wouldn't fund addiction programs on federal because there was no such funding. Alberta had funding through what was called their Alberta Alcohol and Drug Addictions Commission, ADAC. But they wouldn't fund programs on the reserve. We had to go off the reserve. And that's how come facilities that started up this whole movement, such as Palmacre's Lodge up in St. Albert. And then down here in Calgary, we had Crowfoot Lodge. And it's still there today, but the name has kept changing. And now it's, I think it's called Sunrise. And it's still operating as a treatment facility. But some of those people that have passed on, that laid the groundwork for a lot of this stuff were, as I had mentioned already, Frank Turning Robe, Alex Scalplock, Francis Many Bears, Roy Little Chief, and my brother Alan Wolf Leg. Those were some of the principals that worked with Crowfoot Lodge, which became Crowfoot Sunrise, which became Sunrise, and I think that's what it's called today. But one of the things that I think back on when I finally decided to do something about this addiction, for me, Chief Crowfoot has talked about the trauma. Well, back in our day, Indians were prohibited from going into liquor stores and going into bars. And there was this very strict law. If you were caught as an Indian out in public, no court or nothing, you just went to jail for 7 to 10 days. So a lot of times our people would disappear. My dad disappeared a couple times. Next thing we found him in Spy Hill, that's called it. Now it's called the Remand Center. So anytime our people were missing, we'd call these places, and that's where we would find them, because they would be picked up off the street by the police. And then talks about Crowfoot talked about the pass system. And that was another recent happening that has just been, I guess you could say, wiped off the books. But with the prohibition from drinking, mid-60s, they opened it all up. And I'll tell you, I was in my teens, and this whole Siksika Nation went crazy. Deaths, family breakups, 60s scoop, We still had the residential school going. There was a lot of people dying. And even our leadership, our chief and 12 band councillors got into the celebration also. So here we are, some of us have been moved to do something about our addiction. And the government came out with what was called the National Native Alcohol Abuse Programs, federal funding, which is still chicken feed to this day, because it has evolved into NADAP, National Native Alcohol Drug Abuse Program. So I want to thank Alberta for stepping up and making the government feel guilty. But then at the same time, Alberta, we're a part of Alberta. It's just that we're this little federal country within a province, which is kind of an interesting relationship. And I'm glad we're learning how to work together. So with that beginning, for myself personally, when I started this journey, I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I was just going to, as they say, cold turkey. But then I got directed to attend a meeting to make coffee, because none of the people didn't know how to make coffee properly. So I volunteered. I must have made good coffee because they told me to come back. But pretty soon I was sitting at the table with them, AA members. We had our meetings at the Anglican Church down in North Camp in the basement, and it was called the Four Corners Group. That's how it was registered with the AA movement. But at that time, a lot of these old people that were even in the program, they would tell me, you need to find the Siksika way of life. Siksika petapis. That's going to provide you with a lot stronger foundation for your recovery. And so being born in that era of residential schools and whatever, and also at the same time we had our Sundance. I grew up in that with all our traditions. That's what I returned back to. Simple things like pipe ceremony, sweats, and all these little things that remind me of our past and our ancestors and how they lived. And the other thing that I was told is, you will never be white people. This is who you are. So know who you are, what you need to do. And so I'm looking forward to this long-awaited facility. We have a lot of learned people with bachelor's, master's, PhDs that will be required for this. But we also have our traditional knowledge people, our elders, that also have their bachelor's, master's, and PhD. So with that kind of balance, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to benefit from this facility. So I thank all the leadership that have shown up here, Chief and Council. If anything goes wrong, you can always blame Hector. I served on council. If anything went wrong, we'd say it's Hector's fault. So I just want to welcome you to our great land here. Interestingly enough, this is only a microcosm of our land that extended so many places. But that's for another lesson time. So with that, I thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Francis Butch Wolf Leg. At this time, I'd like to thank a lot of people that aren't here who made this possible. You know, especially previous leaderships who, as Elder Butch had mentioned, who have attempted to deal with this addictions pandemic. And I say that because we've been in this pandemic for decades, as Elder Butch had mentioned. So there's been a lot of great leaders in the past who have who had to deal with this with very minimal resources. And I know we're considered federal jurisdiction because of our treaty with the Crown. But it's so amazing to have this partnership for the government to step up and fulfill that obligation to help us, to help our people. So with this leadership, with Minister Dan, Minister Mike, and all those that aren't here, you know, it's such a amazing journey, so exciting, because now we get to bring all those thoughts and dreams and ideas to reality in our community. Because we have to send our people off the reserve to different institutions where our people face discrimination and racism in those institutions. We get kicked out if we get into a fight. We're drawn back to our community. So a building like this is only going to help our people. With all the resources internally, we have a lot of resources. And that's what this building is going to consist of. Our project manager, Tim Papernick, who done a lot of work with the MPE engineers with the renderings tours, or right here to your left. You know, we worked on that for about 12 months at least, back and forth, and now we have this final product that's ready to go to construction. He couldn't make it today. We also have members of MPE. We have Dan and Brock over here, and also Alan from Modus, who's going to be putting this together. But also our fellow colleagues. We have Councilor Sam Crowfoot, Councilor Owen Cranebear, Councilor Strader Crowfoot, Chief Crowfoot. He's been a chief for many years before. Now he's serving with his son, which is quite the experience to witness. But I know the questions are going to be about funding. That's the pink elephant in the room. And when it comes to dollars, you can't put a dollar to lives. No amount of dollars can be measured to a life. But we in Siksika, our treasury sector, our chief is a CPA. He was a former chair of our treasury sector. I've been in treasury for 8 years, and my colleague Owen Cranebear has a strong finance background. And in Siksika, we have a financial law that makes sure that all of our finances are accounted for and our audits run smooth. So with Siksika, that's what we have to make sure that all of our funding dollars are allocated accordingly. So I know there's going to be a lot of turmoil about the funding, but it's not about the funding. It's about working together to keep people alive. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This is a very, very special day and a great partnership with the governments of Siksika and Alberta. So that concludes our speaking engagement. What we're going to have now is the sod turning. So we have all the delegates up here, but also the public recovery center team. So Kendall, Hector, and Candace come up for the photo. After that, I'd like to include other members of council, so Owen, Sam, and Strader, to come and join us for more photos. But for the first one, our delegates up here and the council team.
And then we'll take questions.
Oh, yeah. Carol, do you want to take questions? After? Okay. Right, sorry. Thank you.
You'll take questions. Let's head back here, Chief.
Ladies on. Oh, actually, Hector, come here. I'll stop it.
Blame me if something goes wrong. No, young Arthur's there. Arthur? Yeah, Arthur's on it. Okay. If something goes wrong, Hector, you can blame me. If something goes right, we'll blame you.
So this brings us to the question and answer portion of our announcement. We do have some reporters on the line. I'd like to let reporters know to please state their name and outlet, and they can have one question with one follow-up. Do we have anyone here on the ground who would like to ask questions? I'll just get you to step to the mic with the... Yep.
Multiple mics going, I like it. I'm curious because
Sorry, just your name.
I'm Sarah Offen with Global News. I'm
Great.
curious just because it was something that the councillor had mentioned about this idea of people sometimes going into treatment in the past before they were ready. We've had this this model in Alberta of the involuntary treatment program. Is it something that is going to I guess, is that something that's going to be run differently here? Is there exceptions that are going to be made, for people that maybe that wouldn't work for?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Chief Crowfoot to comment as well, following mine. But compassion intervention is a part of our government platform. We're continuing to work on this. We're in the process of looking at what that looks like. We have a plan to not impose, but propose a solution with our Indigenous partners. This is dramatically different from the past, as you heard from our speakers today. The government of Alberta is stepping up so that we can find a partnership with nations like Siksika and have an Indigenous-led path and opportunity for them to get into recovery. That includes, when it comes to compassionate intervention, a wraparound, fully Indigenous approach. And I think there's nothing compassionate about leaving our loved ones and our dear ones suffering and, methamphetamine, fentanyl addiction, intermittently homeless from laceration and violent interactions on the street with drug cartels. That there's nothing compassionate, nothing Canadian, nothing about our culture or the Indigenous culture that leads us to that conclusion. Instead, we're a society that's compassionate and caring, is going to find help and care for those who are in just difficult and deadly positions when it comes to the disease. So we're going to have an Indigenous-led solution. We're going to partner with communities like this, not just on facilities like this, but for the entire continuum of care. Chief Crowfoot, did you have anything to add on compassionate intervention?
Thank you for the question. We're still working on exactly the details of how the building's going to be operated and some of the programs and all those things. But I do want to say, at the end of the day, it's about healing our community. And sometimes if family's involved, then family's involved. That was our way. If you go back a long ways, it never was about an individual checking in or checking out individually. It was family involvement. You hear the term, it takes a village. That was our way, it takes a village. And so as we work towards the programming and exactly all the details of how the facility will be run, I can't give you a definitive answer right now, but I will say that our end goal is going to be to make our community a stronger community. And our community, primarily the community does focus on Siksika Eguans. But at the same time, as was mentioned by the minister, we've also, even through COVID, we've opened up our facilities in Siksika to our surrounding communities, Calgary, to other areas. Really shown that Siksika is in partnership with Alberta. And the same thing is going to happen with our facility here. Like, the primary focus is going to be for our nation members. But if there's capacity available, then we're going to open it up for other people in the surrounding communities that need that help. But as far as, exactly all the details of how it's going to be run, we don't have all those details right now. But at the end of the day, it's about making our community stronger. And whatever that takes to make the community stronger, I agree with the minister. Nothing's compassionate about sitting back and watching somebody self-destruct and just going, geez, well, it's up to them to decide if they want to self-destruct. Some family intervention, some elder intervention. In our ways, again, we go back to some of the elders. And that's what a lot of these programs are going to be developed on, are the Siksika ways of being. As the Elder Wolf Leg mentioned before, it was some of the things such as the sweats and the other pipe ceremonies, the beaver bundle, all these ceremonies that we had before. That's what we're trying to get back to. And it's going to be some of these things. It's healing. It's going to be healing these things. Because if you go on a 5-day bender, you're not going to get drunk. You're trying to bury some trauma. If you're taking these hard drugs, you're not trying to get high. You're burying some trauma. And so at the end of the day, it's trying to get back to the core, to get back to address the real issues. And so again, might not be the direct answer to your question, but at the end of the day, we're going to do what we need to do at Siksika to make our community stronger. Thank you.
Is there a follow-up?
Waiting on the line. If you mind putting that reporter through, please. Just one question and one follow-up. Looks like that reporter has dropped off the line. So that concludes our announcement for today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining.